Fuck y'all. Heat this shit up.
You take shower now.
Go fuck yourself.
At the captain's signal with his baton, the prison guards stepped forward, only to be taken down one after another in a few swift moves. The captain immediately hit the alarm button. Moments later, Michael Jai White was forced to take a cold shower. He was once a world heavyweight boxing champion, yet while filming a commercial abroad, he was framed out of nowhere by local gangsters and thrown into prison. This Russian prison hosts the most brutal underground fighting matches. The only way to win is to kill your opponent. A man named Boyka has built an astonishing record of 99 straight victories, every fight ending in a one-sided KO. This time was no different. Boyka disposed of his opponent cleanly. The old bookmaker grew deeply worried. If Boyka kept winning like this, he would soon go bankrupt. Then he noticed Michael Jai White live-streaming product promotions. Once an undisputed world heavyweight champion, White's explosive temper quickly dragged him down from the peak. He ended up a faded star stuck filming low-budget commercials. To frame White, Gaga secretly hid drugs inside his Bible. White was arrested by police without explanation. As soon as the news broke, major media outlets swarmed to cover the story. It was clear the setup was deliberately engineered to lock White away in prison. Word of the champion's arrival spread fast, and curious inmates crowded the prison gate. Boyka had long been waiting for him, eager to fight White and prove himself the greatest fighter in the world. By prison rule, all new inmates must take a mandatory shower, but the water was freezing cold. As a former champion, White had never endured such humiliation. He refused to wash. At the captain's gesture, the guards charged in. They were no match for White at all, and were knocked down effortlessly. One guard pressed the emergency electric button, and left with no choice, White reluctantly stepped under the cold shower. Fresh from the shower, White headed for his cell. Suddenly a man splashed a cup of scalding liquid straight in his face, saying it was a gift from Boyka. Furious, White grabbed the man by the wrist. Had the guards not rushed in to separate them, the man would have been killed on the spot. Back in his cell, White quickly cleaned his face, then followed his cellmate to the cafeteria for meals. All the other inmates suddenly stood up. White turned around and saw Boyka walking over with his crew. His cellmate urged White to stand at once, but White ignored him completely. One of Boyka's men stepped forward, intimidating him to rise. Without hesitation, White knocked him out with one punch. The whole room fell into stunned silence. White picked up a water cup, walked straight to Boyka.
Boyka, huh?
Spat into the cup.
Now what kind of bitch-ass name is that?
You were a great champion, I know. Long time ago. Long time. But in here, I am the champion. And you are just my...
And before Boyka could speak a word, splashed the contents all over his face. The surrounding prisoners were utterly shocked. In this prison, even the warden showed Boyka special respect. Boyka never expected to be humiliated so publicly. Enraged, he charged straight at White, and the two began brawling violently. It was only the guards' timely intervention that stopped an all-out bloodbath. Afterward, Boyka furiously confronted the warden. The warden's intention was simple. He wanted the two legends to settle their score once and for all inside the ring. But the next day, White saw his cellmate being brutally beaten by Boyka's men. He stepped in immediately to intervene. His bold move only angered the gang further, and they swarmed toward him, yet they were no match for White at all. He knocked them all to the ground in just a few moves. When Boyka saw his badly bruised men, he flew into a rage.
What?
Learning White was behind it again, he went straight to challenge him to a ring fight. But White retorted, "If we're going to fight, we'll fight right here." Tempers flared, and they were ready to brawl on the spot, only to be held back by the guards once more. The more this happened, the more frustrated Boyka grew. Unable to take it out on White, he poured all his pent-up fury onto his next opponent in the ring. The poor fighter was completely dominated from start to finish. In less than one round, he was beaten unconscious. Boyka mounted on top of him, pounding down punch after relentless blow, until the man lay motionless. He then turned his sharp gaze straight toward White. Faced with Boyka's provocation, White wore a look of pure disdain. He had no respect for these cruel prison fights at all. Meanwhile, Gaga was growing anxious. This latest fight had cost him millions again. He went to see the warden, pressuring him to force White into the ring. Bowing to pressure, the warden had White restrained under a false pretense, threatening he would never leave the prison if he refused to fight. Still, White refused to give in. To break his spirit, the guards assigned him the dirtiest, most demeaning labor. Staring at the pool of filth and waste, White refused outright, but the guards immediately threatened him, saying they would cripple his hands and feet if he disobeyed. Cornered and helpless, He had no choice but to pick up the shovel. From then on, he spent his days cleaning the foul, stinking sewers, and his nights locked away in a cramped water cell. Once a celebrated world boxing champion, now he could only share his misery with rats in the dark. Persuaded by Kaka's earnest words, he finally pulled himself out of despair and agreed to step back into the ring. Inside the towering prison walls, a fight to the death was about to begin. Both men stood ready and focused.
I'll beat you at your own game. Fists only.
Just don't bleed on me too much.
The bell rang, and the first round got underway. They circled each other cautiously at the start, each testing the other's rhythm and tactics. True masters always size one another up first. Once the probing ended, no one expected Boyka, to abandon his signature deadly kicks, choosing instead to trade raw punches with White head-on. White unleashed a sharp combination, cornering him against the ring ropes in an instant. He followed with a relentless flurry of blows, not giving Boyka a single second to catch his breath. Boyka paid a heavy price for fighting with his weakness against his opponent's strength. He collapsed to the canvas, and the referee began the countdown. A heavy silence fell over the entire arena. White turned away with disdain, waiting for the referee to declare him the winner. Yet miraculously, Boyka climbed back to his feet. The prisoners erupted into wild cheers. The real show was only just beginning. The fight resumed. This time Boyka no longer underestimated his rival. His ferocious kicking techniques caught White completely off guard. White was fully dominated, barely able to block and defend. White rose to his feet, feinting an attack to test his opponent, then ducked to evade a strike, and countered with a quick combo. Unexpectedly, Boyka launched a flying spinning kick. With no other choice, White locked him in a clinch to neutralize the move. He surged with sudden strength, and both men tumbled out of the ring together. Just then the bell sounded, ending the first round. Guards and the referee separated the two fighters, who returned to the ring to rest and recover. 1 minute later, the bell rang once more. The second round began. They immediately traded fierce punches and kicks. Suddenly White felt a terrible dizziness wash over him, his vision blurring and twisting. His arms turned weak and heavy, leaving him completely unable to fight back. Finally, Boyka landed a devastating whirlwind kick. White crashed to the ground, unconscious. Outside the ring, Kaka and the agent exchanged a knowing smile. This was exactly the outcome they had planned. White slowly regained consciousness, his mind foggy and empty. The disabled old man pulled him aside and told him the truth: he had been drugged. During the first round, White's water bottle had been swapped by Boyka's men. In an instant, White realized the truth. His own cellmate had betrayed him. Burning with rage, he rushed straight to their cell to confront the traitor. But when he reached the door, he found Pike hanging lifelessly from the beam. A note lay on the floor, saying he had only acted under threat. White turned and confronted Boyka.
Fucking pussy, get up.
I am pussy, look at your face. You are a fucking pussy.
That fight was bullshit and you know it. You had Stevie drug me and that's how you won.
Shouting that he had broken the unwritten fighter's code, winning through dirty, underhanded tricks. Furious at the accusation, Boyka seethed with anger. He despised cheating above all else, and swore he would never stoop so low. Just then the prison warden stepped forward. No matter the controversy, the match was over, and it was time to keep his earlier promise. To everyone's shock, the warden openly broke his word, pushed past his limit. White punched him without hesitation.
I was gonna get out of here! Get off me! Get off! To the ball!
He was tied up in the freezing snow of -30 degrees Celsius to endure a full day and night. The next day, the other inmates could no longer bear to watch. They took off their own clothes to shield him from the bitter cold, bringing him drinking water and food to keep him alive. This warm act touched White deeply. Meanwhile, Kaka, the mastermind behind all the prison fights, berated the warden harshly. He had always planned to put White back in the ring, to break Boyka's undefeated streak. Soon after, Kaka sought out White personally, proposing a rematch between him and Boyka. If White won, he would regain his freedom immediately. Knowing he had no other choice, White had no option but to accept the deal. But he made one condition of his own. Every inmate in the prison must be given a warm-down jacket. Kaka agreed without hesitation. Later, the white-haired old man came to White wearing his new jacket. He admitted he knew a little Chinese martial arts, and offered to stay and train White intensively, to sharpen his fighting skills. Under the old man's careful guidance over time, the rematch between fighting legend Boyka and world champion White was finally set to begin. Kaka even came to the prison in person to watch the fight. The match started. Sticking strictly to their pre-planned strategy, White closed in instantly for close-quarters grappling, denying Boyka any room to unleash his deadly kicking techniques. The tactic worked perfectly. Boyka was thrown on the defensive for the entire first round, completely trapped and unable to take control. In the second round, Boyka quickly adjusted his fighting style. White soon found himself at a disadvantage. Boyka locked his right leg in a tight hold, leaving him immobilized and struggling to break free. It looked as though White was about to lose the match, until the round bell rang just in the nick of time, bringing the second round to an end. The white-haired old man walked over to White's corner, and warned him gravely, if he lost this fight, he would probably never leave the prison for the rest of his life. Those words ignited the fighting spirit deep inside White. He exuded the aura of a true warrior, charging forward with overwhelming power and relentless attacks. Boyka was overwhelmed, unable to defend himself at all. Seizing a brief opening in the fight, White took Boyka down to the ground. Then he unleashed the unique fighting skill taught by the old master, forcibly breaking Boyka's right leg. White claimed the final victory. Gaga made a huge fortune betting on the match. He kept his promise. He granted White his freedom, and gave him a whole suitcase filled with reward money. With the funds, White bribed the warden, and successfully bailed the white-haired old man out of prison.